So over the last couple months, you've heard me say that we have to get some fish into some bigger tanks. Today, that day is finally happening. We're going to be working on our Phase 4 build out, so stay tuned. Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics, and today we're going to be taking you around the fish room, show you our plan, show you where we're going to be putting new tanks, so stay tuned. So this tank is problem number one. This is a 10-gallon tank, and it's housing, I think, what's going to be the coolest fish that we have in the fish room, and this is Geophagus milleri. Now, we got these fish a while back, and they were very, very, very tiny, but they're growing a little bit larger now, and I've always said since the beginning that they were going to need a much larger tank, and the reason for that is these fish will get to be 10 or 12 inches, and they are going to be magnificent. Now, in this 10-gallon, this is not enough space, obviously. It's starting to get a little bit cloudy as Geophagus like to dig through the substrate, and there's like 8 or 9 of them in here, so they're gonna need a bigger tank. The other issue that we have are these red gold severums. We've got 5 in this 20. They're growing very, very quickly. They're in here with some Heteroandra formosa and some pygmy cories, and they also need a much larger space. And so we're gonna try to get these guys in a larger tank as well. And so let's talk a little bit about where they're gonna be going. So one of the things that's always bothered me about this side of the fish room is we've got some wasted space on this side, and that wasted space is right above this 125. What we're gonna be doing is we are going to be double stacking this 125. So the Oscar, the tilapia, and those inhabitants, they're gonna be on the bottom level of a 125. I'm going to build a stand, and then we're gonna put another 125 up here, and that 125 is going to take care of the problem that we currently have with the Geophagus milleri and the red gold severums. I think they're going to be awesome together. I think the colors are going to be amazing. We're gonna put in some dark substrate, dark background. I think they're really, really gonna show off a lot of nice color, and it's gonna be a really cool tank to look at. However, we do have some issues here. Issue number one, the wastewater system that's behind the 125, it's got holes drilled into the pipe, the PVC, and we put the hose in those holes. When we redid the other side, the much better, easier way to do that is to extend PVC going vertically and then just put the hoses in the PVC as it's trying to put them in little holes that are drilled out. So we're going to be updating that wastewater system. So thing number one, I've got to build a stand for the 125, and I will do that in a separate video. I'm going to show you how we do that in case you're ever interested in building a wood stand for a double 125 stand. I think that'll be pretty cool, but we got to get that stand built. That's job number one. So once we get the stand built, once we get it painted, that will allow us to then break down this 125. We got to get all the fish out. I am not looking forward to getting these large fish. The Oscar, the last time we moved him, he sulked in a corner for about 2 or 3 weeks without eating. This giant Nile tilapia, that's going to be another one that's not going to be easy to remove from that tank. All the smaller OBs, they're going to go in a fry bin. We're going to let them grow out. So I think the only things we're going to have left in the tank when we set this up after the stand is built are the Oscar, the tilapia. We might keep the jewel cichlid, the Geophagus steindactyri might go in there, and the larger OBs. But I think everybody else, for the most part, is going to be moving out of that tank. Before we get to refilling the tank, however, we got to get it out. The stand that it is currently on was just a PetSmart stand. That's got to leave. We have to adjust the wastewater system. The other issue that we have is the height that we see over here. We have a support beam that cannot be moved. We've got a filter that can be moved a little bit, a couple inches up, but that is going to help us determine how low the bottom 125 is and how high the upper 125 is going to be. It looks like I'm going to build a double stand that's going to be about 51 inches tall, so it's going to be a little bit shorter than the 75-gallon stand that we have right next to it, but that should give me about 10 inches of clearance on the bottom 125 here, and then I should have enough clearance on most of the 125 to work freely. Where I'm going to be a little bit restricted is where the pump currently is now. Second thing I want to take care of, I've never really been happy with the way that we've done the electricity for this tank and in this corner, and so I'm going to buy a couple more power strips. We're going to straighten that out, and then we also have to deal with the air system here. I'm going to have to run a few more lines just to get this the way we want it. The lights are already here. We've got sponge filters. We've got a hang on the back filter for the new tank. So pretty much everything we need is here. We just got to get started on the stands. So what else does Phase 4 include? If you've been following us on Instagram, that is primetime_aquatics, you will know that a couple weeks ago we bought 3 125s and this 50-gallon lowboy. So we're going to be solving a lot more issues than just the Geophagus weinmilleri and the Severums. All right, so the other issue that we have are these Geophagus Pelegrin I. They are getting a little bit larger. They're not anywhere close to full grown, but this is another fish that could easily get 10 to 12 inches. There are 7 of them in this 75-gallon, and that's not quite big enough for the number of fish that we have, and I really don't want to get rid of any. So one of the 125s that we have are going to be housing these Pelegrin I, along with a few more dither fish. We're going to try to get them out, get them more comfortable, so they're going to be getting their own home as well. So that's going to free up this 75, and we need it. And the reason we need it is our red devils are growing, and we've got this pair here. We've got Roger and we've got Ruby, and this 40-gallon is no longer sufficient for the 2 of them. I want them to have more space, and so they're going to get the 75 that will be eventually vacated by the Pelegrin I. That will free up this 40-gallon so that we can use them. We can use this tank for other fish. And the last 125 is going to house these guys here, the Geophagus brasiliensis. We've got a bunch of them in a 33 long. I've been saying for a very long time that a 33 long is not nearly sufficient for these fish, which will also get to be 10 or 12 inches. They are magnificent fish that deserve a much larger home, and they're going to get it. So this 33 long will be vacated by the brasiliensis. They're going in their own 125 as well. What are going in the 33 long, you ask? Well, that would be these guys. These are all the Geophagus tapajos babies. You're essentially getting an update on these fish right now. They are now about 8 weeks old or so at the time of recording, and so they are growing well, they're eating well. Obviously, this 7.5-gallon tank has kind of outlived its usefulness for this number of fry. They're doing great. I know the tank doesn't look the best, but you know what? Sometimes a tank that is not pristine is really good for fry, and these guys get to pick through the gravel, they get to pick through the Java moss, and they are enjoying life, but they need a much larger space to grow out, and the 33 long will provide that for them, at least for this foreseeable future. So these guys will move into the 33 long, and I think they're going to start to show some pretty awesome color. All right. The last thing that we haven't talked about is that 50-gallon lowboy, and there was a number of things we thought we might do with it. We thought, one, that we could stack it on top of the 55-gallon lowboy that we already had. The problem with that is aesthetically, I don't think that's going to be very nice to look at on this side of the fish room. One of the things I've always enjoyed is having that tank as something to really kind of look at, and it's kind of a centerpiece. We've got the multis in there, and they're really cool in their behaviors. So stacking a 50-gallon lowboy on top of that, it begins to look like more of a production facility, and I'm not necessarily sure I want that. The other thing we thought about is breaking down the 150 again, building a stand, lowering the 150 and putting the 50-gallon lowboy on top of that, since they are the same footprint. That's a lot of work. We just broke down that 150 to rescape it, and the thought of having to do that again and lifting that very heavy tank off of a stand, building another stand just to put a 50-gallon lowboy on top, not really crazy about that idea. I think what we're going to do with the 50-gallon lowboy is put it on the other side, and so we've got that big couch over there, and I think, now the couch isn't going anywhere because the couch is awesome, but I think we're going to remove 1 or 2 of the middle cushions and build a custom stand and then put the 50-gallon lowboy right in the center. I think that's going to be awesome. The couch will then surround the 50-gallon lowboy over there. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to put in that tank. I would love to hear your suggestions. We've got the multis on this side. We've kicked around ideas about putting a different type of shell dweller in there. We've also talked about making it kind of like a centerpiece tank where we do maybe some kind of a South American thing where we've got some brown sand or maybe some very, very fine pebbles with some live plants and some rocks and some driftwood, and maybe do some type of schooling fish. But I would love to hear your opinion. What do you think we should do with the 50-gallon lowboy when we get that up and running on the other side? So the other thing we have to think about in this phase 4 build out, Joanna has been asking me for a long time to build some type of nano tank wall. I think that's going to probably wind up on the other side. And so she's got a number of tanks that she's collected over the last few months, and she's got a lot of ideas on what she wants to put in these tanks and how she wants to aquascape them. So I think it's going to be cool if we build her a stand where she's got maybe 4, 5, 6 different nano tanks. She can set them up how she wants. She can aquascape them how she wants. She can put the fish in, and I think that'll add a nice little section to our fish room where she will be more actively involved in fish tank maintenance, at least we hope. I think at this point we are probably done adding fish tanks to our fish room, and the reason for that is any additional tanks that are going to be added would have to go in the middle of the fish room on the other side where the couch is, and I am not willing to get rid of that. I also think we're at a point now with tank maintenance where with the tanks we add, we're probably at max capacity on what we feel comfortable with in terms of maintaining. So everyone, that is phase 4. In the end, we should be adding 3 125s and the 50-gallon lowboy, and we'll have a lot of fish that we're going to move around in the process, and I think it's going to be a much better situation for them. So if you like this video and you want to see that phase 4, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.